So in today's episode of the podcast, what I'm going to be sharing with you is the 5 key elements, the 5 key steps, parts of the process that we use in our people performance program to help and support MSP tech business leaders and to help them become better leaders, to help them stop becoming managers and stop working in the whole manager space. There's a very big difference between leadership and management. I'm going to share that with you. Why am I doing this podcast? What's this got to do with MSPs? Well, from my tender age of about 25 years old, I was thrust into a leadership position working for what is now Virgin Media. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the thing that I really enjoy about leadership, the thing that I love about coaching and supporting and sharing with people is when you get a leader or a future leader or an upcoming, supervisor, and they don't think that they can do something. And by the work that you do with them and the confidence that you build with them and the process that they go through and the systems that they use, you then install a great skill that you'll use for the rest of your life. And when somebody turns around to you and says, wow, I couldn't do that before and I can do it now, and look what my team are achieving, and all those other great cliches. Team stands for together, everyone achieves more. I don't think I've ever been a manager. I've always wanted to be a leader, and I've always been a leader in an organization. And you're also a leader when you go home, when you're a parent too. What we've done over the years of growing large corporates and now in the IT expert space through the company Innovate to Success, we've now got part of our Profit Builder System is the People Performance Program, because your team is so important. How they interact with your customers and your clients is so important. How they interact with each other is so important. And how they respect, build trust, and all of these amazing attributes of leadership are so important to your business's success. Back in the day, I used to go home and my wife used to say to me, what did you get up to today, sort of thing? And it would be like, well, in actual fact, I don't think I achieved a great deal, but my team achieved what they needed to achieve because they all set their goals. They were motivated. We had fun and we were, enjoyed what we were doing. And this is a really important part of leadership. So what we're going to do, we're going to run through the kind of the 5 key elements, and it's going to help you, once you've listened to this, it's going to help you to probably spark off a few thoughts in your mind about maybe I should have been doing this or should I be doing that. It's going to help you build a little bit of confidence, and it's going to help you to put a bit of a system and a process in place to become a better leader, to have a great engagement with your team, help them achieve more in each day, which is essentially going to make your business more profitable. So everything kind of boils back down to the profitability of the business. So the first step is all about understanding you as a business. So as a business leader or a senior manager, senior leader within the organization, the key area here is understanding with absolute clarity where it is your business is going. And what I mean by this is the vision and the values. There's 3 parts to this. There's the vision, the values, and the mission. So the company vision is, where do you want to go? If you're flying a plane from the UK to the States, the pilot, he kind of knows where he's going, but he doesn't know the exact route because he's only focusing on one piece at a time. As he gets across the ocean and he gets a little bit closer, he then starts honing in on, okay, where's the next waypoint? Where's the next landing point? Then he sees the airport, and then he lands the plane, and then he moves it in the area where they park the planes up, stops the plane, makes it safe, everyone gets off. He doesn't worry when he's taking off from Heathrow how he's going to stop the plane, JFK or the American airport. And this is exactly the same with business planning. It's exactly the same with having a longer term view. Then you break it down into kind of like a 5-year, 3-year, 1-year goals, then your quarterly goals. And if you don't know where your business is going, if you don't have an absolute clarity in the vision of where your organization's going, then you're going to struggle to A, get anybody to align up with any targets, B, to get any kind of business performance reporting to work out what's working well and what's not working well, and C, to try and get people motivated and where the organization's going. For me, my business vision is about providing a complete business development solution for MSP businesses. So we'll take care of your marketing, your lead generation, your leadership development, the business strategy, the planning, and all those things. Are we there today? Nope. Are we going to be there in 5 years' time? Certainly are, because that's the plan. So the vision's really clear that you have that the vision in place. The mission is then how you're going to achieve the vision. What systems and processes, what ways of doing things. It's your own company way, your own identity, how you actually do things. Now, the really important thing here in the MSP space is that this is the bit that people actually buy from you. You could line every MSP up and say, we are all providing IT support services, backup services, and all these other great things that you do. And we all do the same thing. And you do. But it's how you do it is how people buy and why they buy from you. It's how you resolve a situation. It's how you build their trust. It's how you know their network. It's how you organize their backups and you organize their reports and their quarterly business reviews and all of those, all that kind of great stuff. And it's how you do it is why the people buy it from you, essentially. And that's your mission. And then the other key thing to understand is around your values and the organization's values. Now, to do the values, to understand your values, you need to understand your own personal values to start with, and then you will understand the company values. So, working out what those values are, helping your team live by the values is really important. So, our values are: we innovate through continuous improvement, we mentor through experience, we're driven to get results, we're open, honest and real, and we're professional and yet straight talking. But within the organization that we've got here, when we're, it being innovative and when we're trying to do things differently, we live into the values. If we're being honest and open and we don't think that a program's right for a particular business owner, we're honest and open and we're saying, look, I think you'd be better off getting some support from somebody else or whatever it might be. Driven to get results. This podcast has been recorded ridiculously early in the morning because I've had to change the way I work my working day around because of this wonderful COVID thing. So I've had to change that, and that's my working time. But I'm still driven to get the result to deliver a great podcast. So understanding the values with the organization. And then the final part about the first step is understanding and knowing with absolute clarity what your goals are for the year. What are you trying to achieve? And this boils actually down to 5 year, 3 year, and the 1 year plan, and then break it down into quarterlies. But what is it that you're trying to achieve? How many new customers would you like? How much revenue would you like them to generate? How many staff do you want on help desk? How many staff do you want doing your projects? How many staff do you want in your marketing or your admin, your finance team? What does that look like? How does that kind of portray out to then help you achieve those goals? So the first step, in the great IT experts leadership system, I guess, is about understanding the business. It's about understanding and setting the compass out for success. The second step is all about you as an individual. It's all about the individual leader. And there's a couple of things we just need to understand here. The first one is about the shadow of the leader. I heard this term many, many years ago, and it's stuck with me ever since. And it's ever so important. And you will take this not only through this podcast, but you'll also take this back home with you into your family life. If you behave in a way in your organization where you're out of control, you're unorganized, you're stressed, you get anxious, you may swear in the office, you may be super, super friendly with everybody like they're your mate, guess what's going to happen to the end of your organization? They're all going to swear, they're all going to be unorganized because that's how they think that they behave. And it's being a leader is actually just like being a parent. It's really, really simple. And the reason, one of the things that really resonated with me years ago was when we bought our first dog. And the guy said to me, he said, look, this is day one. That dog doesn't know anything. You're going to teach it everything that you want it to do. If you don't want it to sit on the sofa, don't have it sit on the sofa. If you don't want it to go upstairs, don't have it go upstairs. And I kind of reflected on this a little bit and thought, crikey, wouldn't it have been amazing if we'd got a dog before we had kids? Because that was just such a simple, almost like a simple leadership advice from a dog breeder, but it was ever so true, and we trained this dog in what we wanted it to do. We trained it in what we didn't want it to do. And that's no different than being a leader in an organization. And you can see it when you look at some of the organizations you work with. Their leaders are composed. They could be very well dressed. They could be very well spoken. They could be articulate. And that's the values that leader has. If you then recruit around those values, and you then behave in such a way that you're professional and you're organized and you're efficient and you're, well spoken and all of those other good things, guess what's going to happen to the rest of the team? Everyone else is going to think that's the way that you behave. This stuff has had negative connotations as well. If you have a really bad day and you walk in the office and you kick the cat and you've bumped the car on the way in and you've had all sorts of other things going on, being a great leader is all about being self-aware enough to know that you've got to leave that at the door. Because as soon as you walk through that office door, as soon as you show up on your Teams meeting, as soon as you show up online, any interaction, people are going to be looking at seeing how you're composing and they're going to be making sure. So the shadow that you cast is ever so important. It's probably the most important part of this podcast, in all fairness. The next section under understanding you is about understanding the difference between leadership and management. We manage systems and processes and we lead people. People like to follow. They like to be inspired. They like to be motivated. They like to have energy. They like to want to come to work. When they wake up every morning, when everybody wakes up every morning, whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood, a leader wants to win. He wants to succeed. He wants to make sure that he's going to go into that office with energy. He's going to go into that office with infectious energy, effectively, that's going to rub off on the other team members. I always used to gauge my leadership skills on whether or not I could ask my team to come in on a Saturday morning to help me out. I couldn't pay them, but could they come and help me out? Had I got that relationship? Had I built that trust? Had I built that rapport with them? And, I'm pretty lucky to say that I think most of the guys who work for me would do that because they kind of knew how I operated. They knew how I worked. They knew how I gave them, a bit of leeway when they needed a bit of time off. And it's about building that relationship and being self-aware. Self-awareness is ever so important. That's a whole nother podcast, but being aware of your emotions, being aware of other people's emotions, and making sure that we build that into your daily routine effectively. Okay, the third step is all about communication. So the greatest thing in leadership is about understanding how you're going to communicate with people, how to make sure that message that you've got, that important company message, could be a personal message, gets through. Again, like many things in your organization, we need a system and a process for this. And I talk a lot about something called the expectation exchange. And you'll hear this in many of the content and the videos that we put out there. What this is it's kind of like, you're going to come and work for me today. You're going to come and do some great work. You're going to help me out. You're going to help the clients out. You could be working on the help desk. You could be working on a technical innovation. You could be working on, any backup or the admin or market, anything like that, any other department in the business. I'm going to pay you some money and I'm going to expect you to deliver me some great work. It's not uncommon in business because that's what business is all about. But the key here is making sure that you have a clear expectation. You understand what it is you're asking someone to do. They understand what it is you're asking them to do. They also understand what the expected deliverables are. So if you ask somebody for a report, for example, on how many break fix clients you'd had or how many hours that you'd spent on a particular client, make sure that they know what the format of that report is. Because if you just said, could you let me know how many hours we'd spent, how many hours this client's got left in their bank, as it would be, and someone shouts across the office, yeah, they got 20, they've actually done what you've asked them to do. But if you wanted a report, breaking it down per category, per call, per month, per day, per week, whatever it might be, you haven't explained that to them properly. So there's a real clear expectation exchange around the communication. Another key task or another key area is having the ability and the confidence to hold a difficult conversation. This can be very, very uncomfortable for many. It can be uncomfortable for you as a leader because you might not know how to hold these conversations. You might be in a position where you're very, very friendly with your team. And when I was, early on, when I was a lot younger, I was kind of in a position where I was very friendly with the team and you'd be very familiar with them and you'd know a lot of things about them. And that's good to a point because you're helping build rapport and trust, but it could also be detrimental to a point of not being able to pull the company line and the company whip when you need to pull things back into line. And this is where a lot of young leaders get caught out. They kind of think that their team members are their mates. It's a bit like sometimes when you see people, the parents, where the parents think that the kids are their mates. But you try, and if you're really, really friendly with your kid and you've got this great relationship where it's just like one of your mates down the pub or wherever it might be, because you've got that really, really great relationship, you try and get them to do something and you'll have a nightmare. You'll have a tantrums on your hand. You'll have a pushover, because going back to the dog analogy, you're either training them or they're training you. And this is a really, really important thing in leadership. So having the ability to hold a difficult conversation is very important. A little tip for holding difficult conversations. If you feel you've got to have a chat with someone, I don't know, I'm gonna pick an example. They might not be performing properly. They might be going off for lots of cigarette breaks. One of my bugbears back in the day. They might be chatting around in the office. They might be fooling about. They might not be doing something right. And you need to have a difficult conversation. You need to pull them back in line. What I would do, what I'd recommend you do, is kind of map out what you're going to do, how you're going to talk to them. And it's the same with an email. If you want to send someone an email that's a bit of a, technically what we call in the trade a shittogram, where you're going to kind of have a go at someone, or you want something done because you're not happy with the performance. Write it all out, get it all clear in your head, exactly what you want to do. And then go back through it and take all the I's out. So you say, I want you to do this. I'm not happy about this. I don't feel that you've done this thing particularly well. I feel blah, blah, blah. And take all the I's out and change them to we's. We as a company don't think this is appropriate behavior. We believe that our employees shouldn't be going out for a cigarette break every 10 minutes. And we believe your performance should be slightly better than this. And it absolutely diffuses all the personality away from it, because when you bring in the personal side of things, business is business, right? At the end of the day, you provide great service, you get paid for that great service, you pay your costs, you pay yourself a bit of profit, and we have a great lifestyle. That's the model, right? It's not complicated. But when people don't align with the greater good of the business and the organization, you need to bring them back in line. Let them know they're working for an organization. And that's the really important thing there for those difficult conversations. The next thing around communication, or the other thing I just wanted to mention around the communication, is having an IPR. We call it IPR, individual performance review. Some people call it appraisals. Some people call it, review process, whatever it might be. But having a really clear, robust, organized, structured system is so important, because number one, it helps you cascade down your targets and your goals, what you want to achieve, helps you assign accountability that gives you leverage. It will give you time back, because you'll be in a structured manner, letting other people know what they need to do, what the terms of service and what the terms of deliverables are, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it. It's going to help you measure them. It's going to help them stay on track. It's going to help them be motivated, because they're going to know what they're doing. They're going to have a purpose that's then driven back to the vision and the values of the organization. And all of these great things, it's going to help you to reward great performance. And it's also going to help you to address bad performance as well. Regular one-to-ones, monthly, not quarterly, monthly. 3 months is too long. Every single month, you need to be having a great conversation. How are you getting on with your targets? What is it that you need help with? Can you think of any other innovations? And setting all of these up. And this is what we do in the people performance program section within our model. Make sure you've got a robust system. Make sure that the targets are collectively, are connected together. Smart targets, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. It's not easy to do. It really isn't easy to do. But when you get it right, you will become that next step towards that automated, self-managed business. Okay, step 4 then is all about them. It's about the team themselves. It's about the structure, the organization, and you must have a clear structure. You must have clear accountability lines. The people who are accountable for the project side, the help desk, your admin, your finance, whatever it might be, the delivery team, operations, however you've got your business structured. They must know what the rules of engagement are. They must know what they need. Go back to their expectation exchange. What is it that you're expecting them to do? What is it that they're, wanting from you as well? Because an expectation exchange does go both ways. So making sure you're recruiting, making sure you're selecting the right people, making sure their vision and their values. You can probably see now how this podcast is going, because I'm kind of going back to some of the most important things we talked about at the beginning. And this is what we do at IT Experts, because we understand that growing and building a profitable MSP business is not about just sales. It's not about just marketing. It is not about just lead gen or just having a great team. It's the whole thing. So having a structure is really important. Having people in silos. I've done many videos about this before. If you've got someone who's come in and they start, you think, oh, actually, I know you're doing really great on the help desk right now, but could you go and do a bit of this? Could you go and do a bit of that? What you'll end up with is somebody who's got blurred accountability lines. They won't really know where they're going. You'll get somebody who will have many different bosses. So it's who am I actually responsible for? And if that person actually leaves the organization from their own accord, you'll end up with a bit of a mess, because what sort of job are you going to recruit? If they're 40% in one department, 40% in another, and 20 in another, you've left 3 holes. So make sure that everybody stays in their silos and make sure that their roles are around the silos and you don't kind of get that spread. Employee engagement. Never more has it been important to understand and engage your employees. Ask them what things could be doing better. Ask them what things are going well. Now, this is where you need to get a bit vulnerable as a leader, because this kind of flicks into a couple of things here. Number one, a bit of self-awareness for you. If things aren't going right, it's probably partly your fault that things aren't going right. You might not have explained something, or you might have a process that's slightly out of kilter. But this is where you get a little bit vulnerable, and this is where it gets powerful, because when you ask your teams what's going really well, what could be going better, they will then think about the great things that are going on and really be enthused and the great successes that you've had in the organization. But then they'll be more likely to offer you some of their suggestions on what's going well. You must have an employee engagement plan. And this is around regular communications. It's around regular ability to have feedback. It's around the regular one-to-ones. It's around regular kind of having a bit of fun time, having the socials, having a few beers or whatever it might be. Whatever floats your boat. Not everybody is going to want to go down the pub. That's a nice thought, isn't it? In this middle of COVID season, not everyone's going to want to go down the pub. A lot of people are going to be having their own, personal life, and they don't want to get involved in it. But then other people will do. So you need to make sure you've got that bit of a balance. Make sure that you've got a program in place to take their feedback anonymously or with their name. Give them a suggestion box idea. What is it that we could be doing better? How could we be doing it better? Remember, they are the guys on the street. They're the guys who are out there, delivering the work, listening to your customers, listening to your clients, listening to them moaning about things that aren't right. And if they're moaning about things that aren't right, then you need to, as an innovative tech company, understand what it is you need to do to put that right, to number one, support your employees who are going through a bit of pain, and also to make your clients, feel a little bit better. And I touched on it earlier, or I touched on it a couple of minutes ago, just kind of around being self-aware. In these days of being remote, in these days of being not connected but not connected, mental health, wellness, are people moving? Are you just expecting them to sit in their bedroom or their lounge or their office or whatever it is at home and not move all day? You wouldn't do that if they were in the office. You'd be chatting around the water cooler, walking up to the shops to go and get your sandwiches at lunchtime and things like that. And keeping moving throughout the day is absolutely important. Making sure the blood keeps flowing, making sure your brain keeps working. Otherwise, without knowing it, their mental health's going to deteriorate. And that's a really, really bad place to be. As a self-aware leader, you will know more about what's going on at their work. You'll know their level of their performance, whether that's dropped at all. You'll be able to identify it, have those conversations, and help them to overcome any problems that they might have. They might need a bit of time out. They might need a bit of additional support. You might need some more one-to-one time, but really making sure that you've got that process and the mechanism and the way to help you become more self-aware is ever so important. The last step, this is going to sound boring, but it's actually really quite important. It's all about the process. It's all about, your total leadership process on how this is kind of going to work moving forward. So how often are you meeting with your team? How often are you regularly conversing with them, getting their feedback, sharing their performance, sharing their successes, sharing their failures, sharing with them, there's a word here, the direction of the business, the way that we're going, the innovations that we've got coming up, the new product, services and solutions we're providing, how much money we're charging our clients for, the value that they get. There's a massive piece around here, and it kind of does flick in a little bit with the communication. Whether it be daily meetings, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, make sure they're all structured. Make sure they've all got a different agenda. Make sure they're timely. Make sure they're on time, off time. You've got to respect people's time. They've got other things to do in their day. Make sure everyone gets the opportunity to voice and to talk. Be aware that you're the leader. You're not the talker. And, use it as a chance to get their feedback. Again, within that structure, so that's your operating side of things. What you've then got is the kind of the tactical side of things. So how often are you going to be meeting with a team meeting? How often are you going to be meeting individually? How often are you going to be going through their one-to-ones, making sure that that's documented? Again, I'm going to talk about the employee engagement plan. How often are you going to have a social? How often are you going to have you could have like a lessons learned meeting at the end of the month to say, this is what's gone well, this is what could have gone better. You could have what we used to call back in the day a toolbox talk. This is a new product and service we've got from this particular vendor or from this PSA tool or whatever it might be. This is how it's going to work. This is how we integrate it. This is how we sell it. This is what it does for our clients. Where is all of this kind of great communication? And then finally, the reward and recognition. How are you openly rewarding and recognizing great work for your employees, for your teams? Do you do a yearly award? Is there a employee of the month? Is there how to recognize? And the way to do this really is to recognize them against the company values. So when someone's portrayed a really great example of one of the company values, it could be customer excellence at our heart or something like that, and someone went over and above and worked late and provided great customer service, you can say, look, Steve here has done a great job and he has provided that great service to that customer. He has done, helped them through this particular trouble that they were having at the time. The client was working remotely, etc., etc. But also you can use the company values for when someone doesn't behave properly. So jumping back again to the difficult conversations. Look, John really wasn't very happy about what happened the other day. The client wasn't very happy about it. And it doesn't really align with our company value of being good at what we do, whatever it is, etc., etc. So where you've got the reward and recognition, that works both ways to make sure that you've got positive reward and also positive recognition on things that are going well, living against the company values, but also having those difficult conversations as well. So look, I hope you enjoyed this show. Go back and listen to it again. I would, take some notes on some of the things that you're doing quite well, some of the things you could be improving on. This is kind of like the total high level leadership summary from the Profit Builder model that we've got. If you want to come and see it in action, we've got events running regularly where we share with you how to build a profitable MSP business. We'll put a link in the show notes and you can go and have a look. They're absolutely free events. You come along. It's just a value-based event. And, when you're ready, we can have a conversation about how we can help and support you with your business moving forwards. So think about shadow of the leader. Think about your team. Be self-aware. Understand the process that you're going through, get it clear in your mind, communicate it properly with your organization, and you will see not only your business results improve, you'll see your personal results improve. Life will just become a little bit easier for you. You're not going to get stressed in the office. You're not going to get stressed because people aren't going to do anything. Again, I hope you enjoyed this. I look forward to catching up with you on the next show. You have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.